In Migori, heartbreaking pictures and scenes as rioting youth blocked roads with heavy boulders, electricity poles, garbage cans, among other crude items. Many were shot and many are still in hospital. Our political affairs editor Ben Kitili has compiled that report for us.
So this is Migori town, the headquarters of the county of Migori, one of the 4 counties in Nyanza, the old Nyanza province, where we have been for the last few days to cover a very historic part of the biggest election in Kenya's history. That is the 2017 repeat presidential election that was set to happen all over the country. And this is one of the counties that had vowed not to have the election, not to let any Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission officials to move around this place, vowing to stop them from distributing the election materials, because they said they will not be part of the election, because that was a call by their party, their coalition, that is the National Super Alliance, and their candidate Raila Odinga. So for the last few days, we have witnessed demonstrations, relentless youth coming out to the streets to put blockades on the streets, having running battles with anti-riot police, saying that they will not let any amount of tear gas or bullets or any beating from the police stop them from their mission. And that was to stop the IEBC from having the election. Akisa, good afternoon. Yeah, we are right in the middle of a running battle right now as we speak between these demonstrating youth here in Migori, right at the center of Migori town, and anti-riot police. There were a number of youth, hundreds of them, who have blocked this bridge, which, if you are going to pass through Migori, you have to pass right through it. They have blocked this road, trying to say that this will be the case for the whole day tomorrow, when the IBC is set to conduct that postponed election. But police have broken down the demonstrations. One of the plans for the security apparatus was to raise the number of police officers here, and we did have about 5 lorries of General Service Unit officers, depart or descend on the streets of Migori and disperse the crowd immediately. And what followed was about 3 to 4 hours of gunshots and people being rounded up and onto the streets to clear the roads, and others being beaten up. Take a look. The town of Migori is planned is that for you to pass through Migori town on route to Kuria, to Sirare, you have to pass through this bridge. This bridge is also the boundary between Suna East and Suna West. So what they have been trying to do, the youth demonstrating, is that they have been trying to block this road. If you block this bridge, which has been blocked using large boulders, which have been very hard to remove. Yesterday, at some points, the youth also tried to connect some electricity current on the rails around the bridge to be able to make it impossible for the security officers to unblock it. And from that confrontation on Friday, basically, what we have been witnessing is from time to time having to go to the various hospitals here in Migori town. That is the Uruba Nursing Home, that is the Center Akidiva Memorial Hospital, and the Level 4 Hospital here in the county, the town of Migori. The Level 4 facility, of course, plagued by the nurses' strike. And of course, there's the St. Joseph's Ombo Mission Hospital, where many of those injured from those confrontation between the demonstrators and police were taken. But yesterday, that is on Friday, the 27th day of October 2017, it was a different ball game. We did have a higher number of Red Cross vehicles on the streets of Migori trying to ferry those who had been injured to the various hospitals. Many of them, most of them actually, with gunshot wounds. And this us trying to run around took us, or we ended up at the St. Joseph's Ombo Mission Hospital here in Migori town, where most of the more critically wounded had been taken. We did talk to a number of people who had been attended to and discharged, some with minor grazes from bullets, some with bullets still in their bodies, some a young man who had his arm broken from a stray bullet, and of course a 45-year-old man who did lose his life after being shot in the head in the Oruba area. He was pronounced dead on arrival at the St. Joseph's Ombo Mission Hospital, and many others. And of course, the highlight of that was a young boy whom we have reported on, a 10-year-old Collins Ocheng, who was shot on his behind with a bullet coming out on his pelvic area. The boy still fighting for his life at the Ombo Hospital. Of course, it was a very painful image to see his parent. Of course, he came from he was being raised by a single mother. We did understand that, and of course, neighbors trying to understand what happened. A 10-year-old boy being shot like that. That was a very very tough moment for anybody, and of course a highlight of what many have called police brutality, basically in the 4 counties of Nyanza, that is Migori, Homa Bay, Kisumu and Siaya. It is a story that was replicated there, but that let's take a look at some of the people. We did talk to some of those who were injured in those confrontations with the police yesterday. All those stories and little anecdotes, of course, telling the bigger story of the electioneering period of 2017, Kenya's biggest general election yet, and of course, that did culminate into this repeat presidential election that a part of the country refused to be part of, and that part was the county of Migori. We did visit a lot of areas here in Migori for the last 3 days to find out what was their reasoning, what was their story. And of course, their message has been very simple. One, that they were going to follow what their political leader, Raila Odinga, of course, and the National Super Alliance had said, and that is that he will not be taking part in the repeat presidential election because he believed, and NASA coalition believed, that it would not be free and fair, that the grievances they had raised with the Electoral Commission had not been dealt with. And that was the simple, very clear message.
Furahi, tumepata nafuu kabisa jinsi tumeona mapolisi wanatolewa. Hii ni sababu hatuwezi lazimishwa kufanya uchaguzi ambao tutaki kuparticipate in. We are not part of that uchaguzi. This is a democratic country. We cannot be forced to do an election that we are not part of. It was a sham election. It's still sham until reforms are constituted. That is when we'll participate in this election. And we are peaceful people.
So that is what we have been up to for the last 3 days or so here in the county of Migori. What we have witnessed for those couple of days is a historic, period in time where in Kenya's biggest election yet, a part of the country refused to take part in an election, and successfully so. And of course, that has had a lot of people talking about the election, even from the international community, talking about how this election was conducted, the low voter turnout, the withdrawing of the NASA presidential candidate, and the subsequent boycott of the election by his major constituency. That is, of course, the NASA supporters across the country. But basically here in the counties of Migori, Siaya, Homa Bay, and Kisumu, where voting did not take place at all. And of course, it was tough trying to cover this, try to bring out this story of the democracy that is growing, that is Kenya, the governance and political story that was unfolding right before our eyes, as well as the people of Migori trying to put their feet down, and the security apparatus trying to break them down. And that has turned out a bit badly for some of the people here in Migori town, but they say it is a small price to pay for what they believe in terms of politics and democracy and where they want their country to be. So for all of us here, my team here in the county of Migori covering this repeat presidential election, from my cameraman David Otieno and my driver Boaz Marita, I'm Ben Kitili.